Hey, what's up, my minimalist SEOs? Today I want to talk to you about headlines, crafting headlines, and making sure that headlines are awesome, not just for SEO, but also for people as well. But first, as always, there's a story. There's always a story, and here's what we're rolling with. So, yesterday in my neck of the woods was a huge, huge windstorm. It was crazy. I live right beside a nature sanctuary. It's got like kind of a ravine, and all the kids' toys and stuff and everything from my yard was all blowing into this ravine. It was crazy. I keep saying to people, I'm like, yeah, we got great weather for like November. Like it's just been, it's been stupid around here. So I hope the weather in your area has been a lot nicer than what has been for me, because this is not spring weather what we've had. So anyways, the reason why I'm telling this is that again, things in my yard kept going missing, and near the end of the day, something important went missing. My son, one of my kids, couldn't find him. And so anyways, I'm running around doing some chores, and I'm in the garage, and suddenly my son appears in the garage. I'm like, oh, where have you been? What's going on? And he looks at me and says, Dad, I lost the compost bucket. And I was like, you lost the compost bucket? I'm like, well, okay, it's windy, it's crazy. You got to go out, you got to find it, you got to look for it. You take responsibility for the things that you're doing. And I went on this like dad rant, right? Like he says this one thing, and all of a sudden I'm triggered. I'm like, yeah. And when I'm done my little rant, he says, Dad, I lost the compost bucket, and I've been looking for it for the past 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, well, why did you lead with something that triggered me? I mean, why would you do that, man? And then it made me realize he ran with a pretty good headline. He got my attention. He got my emotions up. He got me excited. He got me agitated, and engaged in this conversation. And your headlines need to do that. So yes, with a headline, you can be technical. You can make sure, I need to have my keyword in there. I need to have my keyword phrase. It needs to be, all SEO'd. You do that with traditional SEO. But in minimalist SEO, there's a few things that we need to take care of. And one of the things that we really need to pay attention to is what I call people, not page views, right? We have to remember that there is a human that is reading this content. Google is not a human. Google is a robot, and it's been proven that Google actually can't read, and that's why a lot of this SEO stuff is about, helping Google understand what the content is all about. But when you craft a headline, sure, it's good to try to include your keyword, but some of these tools or information say you have to have the keyword at the front. It's got to be at the front. Well, sometimes that's hard to craft something. So here's what I want you to do as a good rule of thumb for creating headlines for SEO. 1, remember people, not page views. 2, remember the purpose of the headline is to not only include your keyword or something related to that, it's used to describe your content and encourage the user to continue reading. When you have a title of your blog post, you need to make sure that that blog post invokes some kind of emotion, whether it's anger, whether it's curiosity, whether it's, fear or sadness. It needs to invoke some feeling in the human that's reading it so that they read further. The next headline needs to reinforce to the user that they need to keep reading, right? We've got really short attention spans. For those of you that are watching this video, have you made it this far, or did you drop off? Well, if you dropped off, you probably didn't know. So anyways, those headlines need to reinforce the user that they need to keep reading. They need to go through your content. Oftentimes what I like to do is actually, when I'm creating a piece of content, is I'll actually map out the headlines first, so that when the user is scrolling through, not only are they getting kind of these emotional touch points as they go through, but if they just scanned the headlines and didn't actually read the content, they'd actually get the gist of what the article was about. So they can kind of go through and read it and be like, okay, here's basically what it's about. I get the basic concept of the article. And if that, emotionally touched them in a certain way, well, they're going to go back and they're going to read the entire thing. So you kind of get to this point where you can actually now cater to people who read long form content and people who actually just scan content, right? So yes, we can go with just the technical side of things and make sure you have your keyword in your headline. Make sure your keyword is at the front of the headline. Or you can go the minimalist way, which is make sure that you're writing for a human. Make sure you're emotionally connecting with a human. Make sure you're encouraging them to read your article. And when they're invested in your article, make sure that you're continually re-encouraging them and reminding them why they started reading the article so they can get through the entire thing. So I hope that clears some things up. I hope that is able to kind of take the technical side, move it to more of the philosophical side, which will make things a heck of a lot easier. And always with SEO, when you're doing the philosophical side and writing for people and following that minimalist SEO manifesto, those technical side things, they always fall into place afterwards, right? It's the other manifesto piece, the why, not the how. Right? You got to make sure you know why you're doing something. And with headlines, this is why you're doing them. And then once you know why you're doing them, that how falls into place a heck of a lot easier. So go ahead, write some great headlines. Make sure that people are emotionally connected, emotionally triggered, whatever words you want to use. Have your readers engaged. Have them emotionally touched so they can keep reading through and engage with your content. All right, until next time, you guys are awesome.